Now, the word Christ is not a proper name. Did we say that yesterday? It's not a proper name like Jacob, Joseph, or Gale, Etuk. That's not the kind of name. The word Christ is like saying commander-in-chief. The word Christ is like saying managing director. The word Christ is not a proper name. Neither is it just a title. The word Christ is a description. A description. And the way to understand the meaning is to go to the books that Jesus taught from. The way to understand the meaning of the word Christ. Don't forget, we are tracing our way to the Bible use of the word church. All right? So the way to understand the word Christ is to go to the books from where Jesus taught. Now, which books are those books that Jesus taught from again? Genesis to Malachi. All right? So that will be the books of reference. Now, so we're going to look at the word anointed. Anointed in the Greek is the word Christos. Anointed. But the Greek doesn't explain it like the Hebrew. The Greek doesn't explain that word anointed like the Hebrew. Because the Greek words are translations. Greek words are translations. And Greek words are interpretation of Hebrew words. Please don't miss that. Greek words are translations and interpretations of Hebrew words. Because the Bible was primarily written in Hebrew, then translated into Greek in the New Testament. Primarily written in Hebrew, then translated into Greek in the New Testament. And of course, we also have the Greek translation of the Old Testament. We have a Greek translation of the Old Testament called the Septuagint Greek. Septuagint Greek. And I'm going to get that in a bit in the course of this series. So the word Christ in the Hebrew is the word Mashach. Mashach. M-A-S-H-A-C-H. M-A-S-H-A-C-H. Where you have the word Messiah. Messiah. It's within a culture. That word is within a culture. It means to pour on. The word anointed, the word Messiah, it means to pour on. It means to smear. To smear. And it means to put on a surface. To put on a surface. It also means to rub on. To rub on. That's why it's a word used for how people apply what you call cream to their bodies. How people apply cream to their bodies. That's actually what the word anoint means. To rub cream on your body. Now the word anointed means what has been rubbed on. To be anointed. What has been rubbed on. Now where is this from? The first time you will see this word anointed is in Genesis. Genesis 31 verse number 13. PJ, Genesis 31 verse number 13.
I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowest the vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred.
I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed. Please don't miss what I'm teaching tonight. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed, not where I anointed. So the first use of the word anointing was not done by God, it was done by man. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed. God is saying, you are the one who anointed the place. So the word anoint is the word Christ. Or you can say christened. So the first use of the word anointed wasn't what God did. The first use of the word anointed wasn't what God did. Showing you that anointed is a cultural practice. The word anointed is a cultural practice. So let's go to the story. Genesis 28. Where Jacob, the grandson of Abraham, is in a vision. and he saw the vision of the plan that God showed to his grandfather Abraham. Then when he got out of the vision, Genesis 28, 16 to 17, PJ. Genesis 28, 16 to 17.
And Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not.
Next verse.
And he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven.
So he got up and said, the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. This is the place where he had revelation. But remember, God already had revealed himself to Jacob. Jacob had seen the importance of what had happened. So he said, this must be the house of God, and the house of God is the gate of heaven. This must be the house of God, and the house of God is the gate of heaven. This is God's house. Now look at verse 18 of Genesis 28. Pay attention. Genesis 28 verse 18.
And Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it.
He got up and poured oil on the top of it, and he called the name of the place Bethel. So listen now. Did he anoint it first before God came there? Or God was there first, and in recognition of the fact that God was there, he anointed? Huh? A or B? B. So God was there first, and because God had already come there, was why Jacob anointed. So which means the oil was symbolic of a sacred place. The oil doesn't bring God in their culture. And it was a cultural practice. And it was done by men, not by God. It was no spiritual practice. God never asked for oil from day one. It was men that brought their culture to add in the operation of God. But don't forget, God uses man's language. And man's language is within a culture. So God has to accommodate the culture so that their expression will relay the message to their understanding better. I'm teaching here. Now, stay with me. So, it was to stay within the culture. They put the oil there to show sacredness of a place. Within their culture, they put oil to show sacredness of a place or a person. So the first thing about the use of oil as the Mashiach is a culture. Culture. God did not initiate it. But as we have been studying God's uses of human culture, God will accommodate it. God will not initiate it. God will not endorse it. But God will accommodate it. He will use it. Because remember, we have a plan. And then we have to work towards the inauguration of the plan. So we find the use of oil within the plan to symbolize something else, which means oil in the Old Testament in Genesis to Malachi was symbolic. Now Exodus 28:41, pay attention. Exodus 28 verse number 41.
And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother and his sons with him, and shall anoint them and consecrate them and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. So
God has said he has chosen Aaron and his sons. So since he has chosen them, then he says in verse 41, because he has chosen Aaron, you shall put them upon Aaron thy brother and his sons with him, and shall anoint them. It's not the anointing that will make me choose them, but because I have chosen them, You shall anoint and consecrate and sanctify, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. So which means that you put oil on them because God has already chosen them. Exodus 29 verse 7. Exodus 29 verse 7.
Then shalt thou take the anointing oil and pour it upon his head and anoint him.
Then Exodus 36. 29:36.
And thou shalt offer every day a bullock for a sin offering for atonement. And thou shalt cleanse the altar when thou hast made an atonement for it, and thou shalt anoint it to sanctify it.
So we have seen three things. Number one, the oil was meant to show something that is sacred. The oil was meant to show something that is sacred and something that God uses. Give me Exodus 30:26. Exodus 30:26.
And thou shalt anoint the tabernacle of the congregation therewith, and the ark of the testimony.
So you anoint a tent or you anoint a building. Okay? Exodus 30 verse 30. Exodus 30:30.
And thou shalt anoint Aaron and his sons and consecrate them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office.
So you anoint Aaron and his sons. Numbers 35:25. Numbers 35:25.
And the congregation shall deliver the slayer out of the hand of the revenger of blood, and the congregation shall restore him to the city of his refuge, whither he was fled. And he shall abide in it unto the death of the high priest, which was anointed with the holy oil.
Now, so because in their culture, they use the oil to show consecration in their culture. Is it the oil that consecrates, or it is God that consecrates? God. So what is the purpose of the oil? The purpose of the oil is to symbolize that consecration within their culture. To symbolize that consecration within their culture. Now, you are not a Jew. You are not a Hebrew. Why are you carrying olive oil? I'm not talking to you because I know even if you are not thinking straight, you cannot carry olive oil. Except you want to fry chicken with it. Right? Right? Or except you are hiding it in your bedroom for personal use. You are not a Jew, neither are you a Hebrew. So it is not within our culture. God is simply relating with them according to their culture. Numbers 35:25. Numbers 35:25.
And the congregation shall deliver the slayer.
Hold on, PJ. How many of you observe that even where originally it was in their culture to use the oil, they have never prayed on the bottle? Oil turned out to spiritual oil. What madness? Where are you getting that from? Even those who invented it, Jacob, them, the fathers, the founders, didn't pray on the oil. They only carried the oil and poured to symbolize that this place is sacred. So where did your Pentecostal leaders and modern day babalawos and all these charlatans, where did they get praying over the oil from? Where did they get it from? And none of them is a Jew, neither is any of them a Hebrew. Numbers 35:25.
And the congregation shall deliver the slayer out of the hand of the revenger of blood, And the congregation shall restore him to the city of his refuge, whither he was fled. And he shall abide in it unto the death of the high priest, which was anointed with the holy oil.
Which was anointed. So the priests were anointed, and places were anointed. Judges, the 9th chapter, the 8th verse. Judges 9:8.
The trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them, and they said unto the olive tree, Reign thou over us.
Verse 15.
And the bramble said unto the trees, If in truth ye anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon.
Now pay attention here. In this instance, the oil wasn't mentioned. Oil wasn't mentioned in this instance. Which means as the days went on, the use of the word anoint was used for consecration, sanctification, and choice. It was used as the days went by for consecration, for sanctification, and for choice. So whether with or without the oil, the word anoint was used for consecration. Whether with or without the oil, as the days went by. Which means to choose. When we say you are anointed, it means you are chosen. When we say you are anointed, it means you are sanctified. When we say you are anointed, we means you are separate. So with or without the oil, the word anointed is now used for something that is sacred. So the priests were sacred people. So that means that tent is called Christ. That tent is called Christ. The king is also called Christ. The priest is also called Christ. Huh? Because Christ means to rub oil on. So if the ground is anointed, it means oil is rubbed, so that ground is Christ. The king is Christ. The prophet is Christ. The priest is Christ. Don't forget, Christ is not a proper name, but a description.